Hello and welcome to Yanks Footy. Today we'll be talking about the firing of Gregg Berhalter and coaching options that are available or we think would be a good choice other than the options that we discussed on the Copa America review, which those would be guys like Wilfred Nancy, Klopp, who we've seen has already turned the U.S. down, Lowe, a few others. So first, thoughts on Gregg's time with the U.S. With me, I think he did a decent job, at least at the beginning, kind of stabilizing the team after the 2018 debacle. Few good moments, obviously, Nations League trophies, Gold Cup. Those are good moments, but it's also within context of some very not so good moments.
Yeah, the fact that it's been since 2019 that Mexico has beaten us, it brings some pride to the team. It's something that we have never done because for so many years they had, even though sometimes it'd be back and forth, they would typically win, um, and also the trophies. Now, yes, we have the Nations League now, and this is one more trophy you can add. But typically they would dominate the Gold Cup, and they still do. So yeah, the most memorable positive thing I would say is the fact of beating Mexico and then winning the Nations League and that Gold Cup back in 2021. But other than that, it's not very positive.
Yeah, so obviously the biggest failure of his time was what got him fired, the 2024 Copa America. Got grouped, obviously, which was first time the U.S. has been uh, the first time a host of Copa America has been grouped, which is an embarrassment to say the least. Um, has largely failed to get a signature win. Yes, you have the tie against Brazil and the tie and the draw against England, which are good results. Yes, but that's still not a win. So failure on that part. Uh, we have a very poor away record under him. 4-7, 4 wins. Um, that's out of
Four wins, 7 draws, and eight
yeah,
losses.
so that's 4 wins out of what 19 games, I think, if I did that math correctly. Which is not what you want. Um, outside of Mexico, we have a losing record against top 20 teams. Our only other top 20 win is Iran, which is not what you want.
Yeah, that record is 5 wins, 5 draws, and 8 losses. Everybody. Um, 4 of those 5 wins came from Mexico. So yeah, if you just exclude Mexico, we have a big losing record against top
Yeah,
20 teams.
1-5-8 without Mexico, which is not good. Um, we have so for the first time since 2009 in the Colombia game, we conceded 5 goals. Yes, Colombia is really good. They're obviously on that 28 game, I think it's up to now, record winning streak, which very, very good team. No knock on them. Still should not be losing by 5 to them. That's not 2-0, 2-1, something like that. I can accept. 5, that's not acceptable.
And yeah, I believe that is their biggest win since they started this undefeated streak.
Um, didn't they beat Panama 5-0? I think.
No, there was. I think that was a. Was it 5-0? I thought it was like a
I thought it was
4-0. Let me see real quick.
Yeah, it was 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0. So but I think
Threw
prior
those
to
at
the
pins
Panama
too.
game, that was the biggest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Prior to that, biggest, yes. Um, the yes qualified for 2022 World Cup, but that was in third place on goal differential in a region where our only competition should be Canada and Mexico. You finished below both of your biggest rivals in the region and couldn't even get and had to rely on goal differential rather than just getting the points you needed to qualify, which, I mean, good job, you qualified. Bare minimum. Not what you should be doing in this region. And then this cycle, US 7, 1, and 6. Not an inspiring record.
Yeah, and I'll also add Jeff Carlisle, when he wrote an article recently for ESPN, he said it was the first time the U.S. was eliminated from a tournament at the group stage that they were hosting. So this is another little stain to his legacy. Uh, Again, we do give him credit for what he's done, like winning trophies, beating Mexico, getting us to the World Cup after 2018, and then getting us to the knockout stage. But it's also some of the things in between those moments um, that weren't very inspiring. And as Football Americas, for you those who don't watch, said that before, I think it was Football Americas, maybe it was CBS, but one of them said that before the Copa America, even before his second cycle started, he could have gone to Europe. And yes, there were talks of him having managerial offers in Europe. But after this Copa America, he's probably limited to just MLS. It has put such a dent in
Yeah,
his image. And uh, even with what happened at the World Cup, I personally think that how we left Copa America is going to be more memorable than that World Cup
yeah.
run.
I absolutely think that by staying, by trying to stay for a second cycle and staying and having this result at Copa America, absolutely. Like, yes, he wouldn't have had a fantastic legacy, but but he would have had at least a respectable one. Like, regardless of people's opinions on him, most people can admit that there were some decent moments, and it wasn't like a complete horror show throughout his first cycle. But this second cycle with this Copa America failure has just really, really damaged his legacy with the US and has really, I think, damaged his opportunities outside of the national team. Like, as you had said, he had European options when after the World Cup, which, I mean, I don't necessarily get that, but I mean, I can respect that. But now that's, I would assume, almost entirely gone.
Even within the MLS, just from the chatters that people are saying, he's not getting a lot of offers within MLS. I think it looks like he's going to go to Chicago. Some people have been throwing out Atlanta at this point because they need a manager. But last time I saw on Twitter, someone mentioned that it was like only 4 teams right now. And that was
Yeah,
before he was fired. So I don't know.
I saw Austin being thrown around a little, which would
Yeah.
make
And
which would make sense. I mean, because Precourt worked with them before, so I
mhm.
mean, Austin, I could see if that's assuming that Wolf gets fired or doesn't stay.
Yeah, which the fans want him fired.
Yeah,
I think it's mostly the fans are calling for Gregg to come simply so they can have an excuse to get rid of Wolf.
yeah. Which, That's interesting because I don't think Austin's doing that bad. Yeah, I mean they're ninth. They're not terrible.
No, and
But I don't.
he had a surprising good run in the
Yeah,
playoffs a couple years ago.
yeah,
I think it's mainly the player selections.
yeah. It's like I don't
It's
follow
why fans
Austin
don't
close
like
enough
him.
to know why they have the issue with them. Because like if you just like at a glance, I mean they're in a playoff spot. So it's
Hmm.
like I don't. But obviously there's other issues, and you can't always tell just by spots why a coach is under pressure. So
Yeah, and I think funny enough, one of those reasons is his son Owen. People want to see him
oh
play
yeah, I
more
have seen that.
often. Yeah, and the only reason why he won't do it is because he. I mean, I like the mentality. He doesn't want to seem like he's favoring his son.
Yeah,
But if the fans are calling for his son to play him. I mean,
yeah,
no one's going to criticize you at that point.
yeah. So moving on from that, let's get into some of the other coaches that we haven't discussed before that uh, we have interest in seeing the U.S. go for.
So yeah, one name that a lot of fans are throwing around is Thomas Christensen, who is currently the manager of Panama. Uh, it- with who they have, he's actually done some good things with them. One of them is qualifying for the World Cup. They finished second in the Gold Cup last year. He did manage to get them to the knockout stage of the Copa America. Uh, I think if you were to give him a better team, better quality players, I think he could do a lot more. And the tactics that we see him use with Panama, I think can be very fitting for our group of guys that we have. I Based on what we're seeing, it looks like they're not going to try to take the opportunity to get Christensen. And it's not like he's getting paid a lot at Panama. We can honestly give him a pay raise if he was to come here. And it wouldn't surprise me if we were offered that if you would to accept it.
So moving on from him, Mauricio Pochettino. He was obviously at Chelsea most recently, got controversially, in my opinion, fired. Um, he had got a very young Chelsea team to a Conference League spot. Would have been Europa League if United would have lost the uh, FA Cup, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
He had an almost 51% win rate at Chelsea, which is pretty good. Um, Before that, he was at PSG, had a 65% win rate, which I mean it's PSG. Gonna have a He should have a high win rate there. I think his best part of his career was probably with Tottenham, where he had 54% winning rate, got him to a Champions League final. I think he would be a good option. I think he did much better at Chelsea than a lot of people, specifically Chelsea fans. Certain groups of Chelsea fans want to give him. I think he did about as much as he could have been expected to do there. So I think he would definitely be a good option. I don't think he would be incredibly expensive either. I mean, he's not going to be cheap, but he's not going to be breaking the bank. So I would like to see us at least take a look at him, see if he has interest. Um, and then keeping with the theme of former Chelsea managers, um, Maurizio Sarri, who was just fired from Lazio. Uh,
I
he
think
had
he resigned. I think it was
resigned.
actually he
Yeah,
resigned.
I didn't remember if he was fired or resigned. But yeah, he was at Lazio for 3 years, uh, which wasn't the best time, but that Lazio team's also not the best. He had a 48% winning rate there. Prior to that, he was at Juve, where he where he won the league in 2019-2020. Um, he had a 65% winning rate there. So good good job there, or at least decent. It was a about year-long stint. 34 wins, 9 draws, 9 losses. Prior to that, he was at Chelsea, where he won the Europa League, a good win percentage there too, about 62%. And then prior to that, Napoli, he was there for about 3 years, had a 66% winning rate there. So he's got a good, pretty decent track record. I don't think he's fantastic, I guess. I think he's a good manager. But I would definitely be happy with us getting him. I mean, when you see like Cherundolo being thrown around as the front runner, and if we go for Sorry instead or something like that, I'd be very happy. I think that would be a move that would make most people happy. I don't like, obviously, again, it's not like Klopp, but he's still a proven manager. His style's not necessarily the prettiest, I don't think, but I definitely would think he'd be a good manager for us, at least for 2 years to the World Cup.
Yeah, and these next two managers, a lot of fans are throwing around. There are two that I would really like to see, especially over Trangelo. One of them is available, and that first one is Marcelo Gallardo. He's arguably one of the best Argentinian and South American managers out there right now. If you just look at what he did, River Plata, he won every domestic cup in Argentina. And while he was there, he also won the Sudamericana and he won 2 Copa Libertadores. Now, he has yet to manage a national team, and that's partially because he spent most of his managerial career so far at River Plata. But if you look at his all-time record so far, is 270 wins, 112 draws, and 114 losses. My bad. With goals of 922 and conceded of 505. And he's also looking at 1.86 points per match. So those are really good numbers. And surprisingly, we're not hearing rumors of the Federation talking to Gallardo. Again, he is available. It's not like we have to take him from another team. And again, he is arguably one of the best South American managers currently in the soccer world. In after dealing with Berhalter ball, where scoring wasn't a priority, that's not the case for Gallardo. Again, if you just look at the matches, he's scoring goals for his team is scoring goals. And I think that's something that we need to see as not just as fans, but also as a federation and as a team. Uh, the other one is Hervé Renard. I hope I'm pronouncing the first name right. I'm not very good with pronunciation in French, but he spent most of his career as a manager in Africa. But in that time, he won the African Cup of Nations with both Zambia and Ivory Coast. I mean, Zambia is not whatsoever a powerhouse in Africa. He managed to pull that off. Um, uh, he also led Saudi Arabia to one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history, and that was defeating Argentina. Yeah, they didn't make it out of the group. Neither did Ivory Coast when he managed them at the time, but still, he's winning domestically, and he is making these upsets. Like again, taking Saudi Arabia to defeat Argentina. Um, he has said that he wants to at least manage one team from every confederation. So if we offer it to him, I imagine he'll take it. And right now he's being looked at by Nigeria, Egypt, and a club in Saudi Arabia. And it's being reported that they're all offering him 2 million euros, and that's right around, and it's actually cheaper than what the federation was paying Gregg Berhalter. And we all know they're cheap. They want to try to save money as much as possible. They have historically had that cap of 2 million a year for the manager. So why not just take this opportunity, put your name in the hat? But one thing to take in consideration for him is when you look at his all-time records and even his points per match is not the greatest. But I will also say you got to take in consideration the teams that he was leading. Uh, do you want to mention David Wagner?
Yeah. So another option that's been thrown around is David
Wagner.
Wagner. Yeah, there we go. He's American, so which we know that's something the U.S. Federation likes. He uses a formation and tactics that could be beneficial to the team. So he is somewhat inexperienced, so it might be a risk to pick him. However, I still think that he is a solid option. Maybe not. Maybe even for looking past 26 as someone, but even if we want to just have him to 26, I still think he's a solid option. Obviously better than some of the other names I've seen going around. So wouldn't be the worst. Also not the most experienced or best option out there, but
He is
overall, I think
available.
yeah.
Yeah, he was sacked by Norwich, which honestly, if you listen to the Norwich fans, they were saying it was a little unjust.
Yeah, I was kind
They
of surprised that he did get fired by them.
Yeah, and they were in a position to get a promotion playoff spot. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I
really
was trying to pull
strange.
up his
I
stats.
think it was because they didn't like his record, lack of wins or something like that.
Yeah, I mean
But
he had a 41% winning rate there, which I mean it's not stellar, but prior to
yeah,
that
but
he was
Norwich doesn't have the best team either in the
yeah
championship.
their team's not the best right now. That
I
was out of
mean,
75 games. Prior to that, he was at Young Boys had a 47% win rate, which I mean it's not incredibly inspiring, but I think he's also a solid option. I mean, I personally, when we go through our top five, he'll be in mine probably. So
I mean, I would take him over Trangelo, and
yeah,
yeah, people could say that. Well, you said that both are inexperienced. Why Wagner? But I would say Wagner because he has that European experience. Again, he's coached in Germany. He did young boys in Switzerland, and now recently Norwich. So
yeah,
um,
he's had two English teams, I think, Young Boys, Schalke, and then he was
I
Borussia
think he was.
Dortmund. He was
I
Dortmund's
think he
second team
wasn't he
coach for 2 years.
Huddersfield.
Yeah, Huddersfield. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was there for like
So
4 years.
yeah, he was there for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
so I mean, not incredibly
mhm.
inexperienced. Like he's got plenty of first team management experience, and I mean he was at. I mean, just as a head coach, even with the second team, he's been coaching since 2011. So, I mean, relative to like Sorry or Potch, yeah, he's kind of inexperienced. But
Mhm.
like in comparison to Cherundolo, I would say he's much more experienced.
Yeah, and one other one that people have started to throw around, and that's Patrick Vieira. He does have some MLS experience. If y'all remember, he managed New York City FC before he went to Crystal Palace. And as we know, for the federation, is always appealing to them that they coach in the MLS, especially for Don Garber. And if you pay attention, it's pretty obvious Don Garber is having some type of say on who the coach is, and he's trying to push for his MLS manager, as he has been pushing for MLS players on the national team and Olympic team for several years now.
Yeah,
But he was okay, in my opinion, at both Crystal Palace and New York City FC. Part of the reason why I even include him on this list of managers to talk about is because apparently he was a Final Three candidate the last time we were looking for a manager, supposedly.
yeah,
But right now he's at Strasbourg, and they
yeah,
finished 13th last season, only avoiding relegation by 10 points.
yeah,
Compared to him to Berhalter is not much of a step up at all.
yeah. I mean, so he's coached New York City, Nice, Crystal Palace, and Strasbourg. His best winning percentage was 44 at NYC, and his worst is 29 at Crystal Palace. So
Yeah,
not,
and that was the reason why he got sacked.
yeah, not the most inspiring numbers out there. The Well, to make it even better, he has the only time he has a positive goal differential across his coaching is at New York City. Outside of that, he has -9, -3, -4.
Yeah, and I will say that Crystal Palace, it wasn't like he was in relegation battle the whole entire
Yeah,
time. It was one of those things where it just looked like he was fighting to survive at Crystal Palace. Not himself, but the team.
yeah,
Uh, it wasn't like he was chasing to reach the top five. It was more or less just like, how can we stay in the Premier League? And
yeah.
um, I would say that was a mistake in the eyes of Crystal Palace. And you see their current manager, Glassner, what he's doing. He's making them one of the most competitive teams in the Premier League at this point. So
I mean,
again, he's just not a major step up from what we
yeah.
had.
So now let's get into who our top 5 preferences are. So,
So yeah, my number one at this point, since club rejected it, is Joachim Löw. He's been available for a while, and I know as of recent people have been saying that he's washed, but I mean, part of it was a lot on the team. The German team at the time, even though it hasn't been very long ago, it wasn't cohesive. But I do think if you brought him here, things would be very, very positive. Uh, and a bonus to the eyes of U.S. soccer is he knows English. Uh, it's surprisingly no one's going for him. As we mentioned before, I imagine that he won't be asking for much, simply because he hasn't coached in a while. My number two would be Marcelo Gallardo. I'm not gonna go through the whole rundown again on him. Uh, and then Renard would be my third choice, followed by Thomas Christensen. And my last one would be Matarazzo. Part of the reason why I put Matarazzo on here is because he's American, and once again, that is a big positive for U.S. soccer. So, and the reason why I put him on here is just it looks like U.S. soccer just does not rate him for some reason, even though he has done good things at Stuttgart and now doing really good things for Hoffenheim. Um, I think that he needs to have his name in the hat. He has to, though. He has talked to them the previous managerial search that they did. He rejected them. Maybe they didn't take it too kindly. That's why they haven't talked to him. I don't know, but he needs to be in the conversation. But yeah, your turn.
Yeah. So for me, my top five, a lot of these I'm not going to talk much about because either Zach said it or we've talked about it prior. So low, I pretty much just what Zach said about it, about him. Same thing. Renard, uh, done well in AFCON tournaments. Obviously got that signature win over Argentina. Uh, Matarazzo, good at Stuttgart, good at Hoffenheim, American manager. So, and then I have Wagner on there. I know his like record wise is not the most stellar thing, but I do like his style of play from watching Norwich. I think he would be an improvement for sure. Um, I think so. Yeah, solid option. I think. And then this might be part of me being a Chelsea fan, but I like Poch. I think he would be a good option. I think he got railroaded at Chelsea. Uh, I think he would be a pretty big name. I think he would have a solid job for us. I think he would do well with a lot of the players we have. I mean, I think he does well to an extent getting the best from some of his players. I think it sometimes takes a while, and I think part of that, his struggle at Chelsea, was how young that team was. Like, so, but I still think he can do a good job. I think Tottenham was impressive uh,
Mhm.
with him. So I think that wouldn't be. I think we can do worse for sure. So I think so. But yeah, I like him. I also think Gallardo and Christensen are also good options, and they're just outside that top five. Like it was very close there. I think I had Christensen in it uh, up until like right before we started. I had him in it. I just opted for Poch in the end just because I have liked what I've seen from him a little more and I know a little more about him.
Yeah, and supposedly we will hear something by September on who the manager could be. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want them to rush this, so I think
Mm-hmm.
take all the time, like end of August, right? Like I want a coach before the friendlies though. I don't necessarily want to go through that with an interim because it's 2 year we're 2 years out from a World Cup. The new coach, even if it is Cherundolo, I want them to get as much time with the team as possible, but I also don't want the coaching search to be shortened unnecessarily.
Yes, the only problem is because we're 2 years away from the World Cup. They need to get someone in. Nations League starts in November.
Yep.
Um, we need the manager there in September to at least use those friendlies to test things out. But I'm not going to be upset if we don't. I
Yeah,
prefer to have one by November at the latest, just
yeah,
because of the Nations League.
yeah. And I mean, my thing, I would like them by September because I don't. The teams we're playing in September, I think, are New Zealand and Canada. I don't remember the other one.
Canada, and
Yeah,
then
Canada.
supposedly they're working on Panama.
Okay, so
Last I checked, it was confirmed it was Panama, but they're confirming on what day and where.
yeah, so I mean, not the strongest teams in the world. So those are teams that I think would be a good introduction for a new manager to come in and have some. I mean, Canada's a good team, at least in this region. Uh, New Zealand is all right. Panama gives us trouble a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So having them come in with not bad, but like solid enough teams that you can have a good idea what your players can bring from those games, but also have some should, if you're doing well, have some ability to really like rotate, get everyone minutes, really see what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I after what happened at the Copa America, if we have a manager by September, the Panama game would be the biggest test, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah, Canada did the best in of all the CONCACAF teams. You can say that's a test, especially when it comes against Jesse Marsh, which you can say what you will, but right now he looks good for them. But um, I wouldn't be too upset if that game was a draw. Whoever the new manager is,
Yeah.
it's the Panama game. If we could beat Panama, I'd be happy. If we draw against Panama, then I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with a new manager playing a Canada team that's looked pretty good under Marsh. I mean, they haven't scored a ton, but I think that might come with time. Uh, so that, but yeah, we need to beat Panama there, or if we're drawing, I'm having worries or doubts about whoever's the manager is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We cover everything. We don't need to be a dead horse on Gregg Berhalter at this point. Everyone else has been jumping on their opportunity. We talked about him a couple of times already, and if you want a little bit more opinions on him, I did a previous episode on Spotify. You can also find that on YouTube now, where I did call for him to be fired if things didn't go smoothly at Copa America, which ultimately did happen.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you can take a listen at, if you haven't yet, our previous episode on this, and uh, the video discusses after us losing to Colombia. That's where you'll find more conversation regarding Gregg Berhalter. But we should be hearing something about the U20 CONCACAF Championship team roster today. And this weekend, we'll go over that roster with y'all. But thank you for joining, everyone. See you next time.